Hi again. So yesterday was the Trans Day of Remembrance, and if you don't know what that is, look it up. Okay, come back then. Uh, I did my own little vigil here in Toledo, as I did last year, and well, I didn't. Last year was the first year I'd done a vigil. The year before that, I tried something different. I talked about this in my previous video, I think. So I think I think last night's visual that I did went pretty well. Um, Considering the fact that I only had 2 days to plan it and didn't have much time to get the word out, I had about 8 people show up. Well, 8 people show up. Two other trans women from the community, which was pretty cool that they came because they usually don't come to my events. Um, and I think it went. I think it was successful. I think it was. I think it went well. Even though it was small, every year it seems that there's more and more discussion around this day about politically, like about whether it's appropriation and about whether white people should be exploiting the you know I don't really think it's exploitation. Like, and I don't under sorry about the lighting, and I don't really understand like I know that most of the I read the list like 4 times this year. I know that most of the list were trans women of color who were sex workers. I'm not a trans woman of color, but I used to be a sex worker, and I know it fucking sucks. I had my own very bad experiences doing it, and I I don't feel that because I'm white that doesn't give me permission to mourn other trans women's death. And I don't think that that's appropriation. Um, I mean, that's kind of what the day's for, right? I definitely there's definitely a problem with using it to fundraise or for any sort of political purpose, other than mourning. Uh, I'm personally guilty of that in the past, but I've learned from my mistake, and I've done nothing but a vigil the past 2 years, and I will probably do another vigil next year. Um, so what happened anyway was I had one of my best friend really had asked me, a few hours before the thing started, because they knew that everyone knew that they'd be reading the list of names and stuff. And I wanted. She asked. She was like, "Can I read some of the names?" And I had initially only wanted all trans people to read the names because I felt like that's what the seriousness of the day was. This was a day for us. Do you know what I mean? This was a day for us to be center stage or whatever, sort of. But that's the thing after reading so much arguments about specifically again in the hours before my vigil last night, that I was following this discussion on Tumblr, and it was pretty insane and intense, and a lot of supposed calling out of people, and it's mainly white trans women who feel a connection to this day because we should, these are our sisters, and I just don't understand how that's appropriation. So what I did, I had everyone read the names. I thought what my friend suggested was a good idea, and then I asked everyone there because I mean, especially with it being such a small, intimate group of people, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna ask everyone to read names because they have just as much of a right. I'm not, I don't face the same kind of oppression that these women face. Most of these women face. Anyway, I mean, there were 15 deaths on the list from USA, but they were. I'm pretty sure they were all trans women of color, and they were all sex workers. I think, if I remember correctly. Um, so, I don't fit into those demographics either, and neither did the other two trans women were white as well, and a little bit privileged if I can say, but. So I actually thought that having it kind of like a plug-in event for everyone, rather than trans people talking down to everyone for because that's what I kind of saw it as last year when I did last year's vigil. Like I even put us up higher, like, and I only had let trans people speak. Um, and I had this vitriolic speech last year that I read, and I cried halfway through. Um, but I didn't do that this year. I didn't. I only wrote like 3 paragraphs of like an intro of what the day was and a little bit of history and a little bit of kind of breakdown of the numbers, uh, like and where the numbers came from. Uh, what countries were higher and whatnot. Uh, and then that was it. Just a reading of the names and kind of like a brief comment or two afterwards. Just thank everyone for coming and I went into the form why I asked them to read names a little bit afterwards. But and I think that was the right idea. And the more I think about it, and the more I talk about it, the more I do think that that wasn't a terrible idea. What I had, um, you know, there's a lot. Like I said, in these discussions this year, I'm seeing a lot of fucking, oh, check your privilege, white trans people or whatever. And I'm beginning to, what does that even mean? What do I have to do to check my privilege? Like, I know that I'm white. I know that I don't face the same kind of shit. Like, I've had it tough, but I know that I would have had it X times tougher if I had been a trans woman of color rather than a white trans woman. Like, I got so much, there were a lot of opportunities that I got that I definitely would not have gotten if I were, black, especially. um, so I know that. I understand that. But I don't understand how I'm supposed to support people of color without appropriating shit. I'm always so worried about appropriating now that it makes me hesitant to do anything. Why should that be? Especially if I obviously have, you know, I'm not coming from a place of total misunderstanding. You know? I mean, this is why I just kind of, you know, I don't know how to focus on it or how to organize around it. So I don't. And I have the few friends that I have that are people of color. I used to have a friend that was a queer person of color, but like, what kind of, our friendship kind of ended for various reasons. Actually, I made videos about that, but I deleted them. They're kind of private. But I'll beg them to come. You know what I mean? But that's all I can do. And if they have something else going on, or what can I do? And especially when like most of it can be really dangerous for me to reach out to those communities. Especially have had many bad experiences in the past. Um, so I don't know. I don't know what to do or how to organize around it other than just be as inclusive and as accessible as possible. Um, this is another thing that like the girl I'm kind of like my activist rival in Toledo keeps doing. She keeps having these events that are like you have to pay to get into, or like pay to participate in, which I've always been so against. Like, how can you do that, especially if you're trans and you understand that most trans people like can't get jobs and can't fucking get by very easily in the society without sucking dick for a living or something like that. How could you possibly what are you doing putting on, something with a barrier to entry? Do you know what I mean? I hate the way she's doing things, which is another reason I'm glad that, I'm going to be getting back into, like, the scene and the community. I feel like, I don't know, after my success last night, like, I kind of feel energized, and I want to do more actions. I don't know what to do yet. I need to, have some organized way to bring new trans women into the fold because I've been over the course of since I've been full time, I've been contacted by many girls who are in the process of coming out and need someone to kind of guide them or whatever, or take them out and go shopping and shit. Like, because it's really nerve-wracking and awkward and really difficult early on to go those first few times. At least for most of us, and some girls need, little advice, a little this and that, a little help, someone to kind of go with them, and I don't mind being that. I have tons of free time since I don't work, so I don't mind doing that for girls. It's just like every time I get emotionally attached, I've done this because it's been on a personal level, it's been on like a friend level. So I've kind of been hurt each time, and each time it gets harder and harder on me. So each time I've tried to maintain more and more separation to the point where like this now it's almost impersonal. I feel like it's impersonal, and I don't want it to be impersonal. I mean, I'm doing it for political reasons. At the end of the day, that's true. Like I'm doing it to recruit to get new recruits, no doubt. You know, but I can't personally. It's hard to not personally invest in that, and I need to have some kind of structure, some group or something like that, something to diffuse the support. That it's not just them be the fact that they're always looking to me. That I can kind of build this group. It's just I've seen so much of that happen in the community thus far that it's every time a group like that forms, what it winds up becoming is just all the girls that kind of came out around this time period, and in this bracket of years, kind of go along together, and like they each go full time and get seriouser and seriouser, and each kind of goes their own way as happens. Because we just go on to live our own, live our lives as women or whatever. I mean, talking mostly about trans women. I mean, yeah, trans men, especially in areas like this, trans men need help too, and it's tough. Um, Especially since my one trans guy friend, just left town this year, which like he was so good. He helped me so much, and he was so much more charismatic than I am. I miss him being around. Come back, Dale. um, but I don't know. Like I have to have some like, and these used to all be done through the Yahoo groups a lot. Yahoo groups has since kind of gone the way of a dodo. You know what I mean? Like I'd feel like so out of date and out of touch if I made a Yahoo group. And Facebook groups suck. There's no really groups on Tumblr or any other like social like site. I mean, my best option is to go through some kind of third party thing like Ning and create like my own little mini social network, which is what the last kind of crossdresser group in town here was. It was a Ning group basically. It moved to being a Ning group. But you had to pay for that because Ning is now they charge, and um, they're quite frankly, I always thought they sucked. And when they started charging, I thought she was dumb for paying because good God, their tools suck as it is. But I don't know of anyone else like that. And you know, it costs money to host, a site yourself. We can do it. Me and my boyfriend have the capacity to do it. I'll have to talk to him about it, but maybe that'll happen. But if you know of any kind of site that I could do my own little mini social network on, that you don't have to sign up for another account that's extensive, that it can be very quickly done, please let me know. Um, 'Cause I need to do some kind of organizational structure here, and I want to get going with that. I want I want to plan other like actions, like political actions, demonstrations and stuff. I don't really know what else to do right now, and with like Christmas coming up and all that stupid horse shit. God, I hate this time of year. I usually drink heavily this time of year. We'll see if that happens again. But I know people are going to be busy, and planning actions is going to be difficult. But I'll try and get something going here soon, because I think it's time.